There's something that a spreadsheet just can't give you, and that I really didn't understand until I was outside of the system, outside of the job, and having left the UK. But I actually have fundamental data that will show what a change of life actually looks like. I wear a smartwatch. I bought this one in January of this year just to track my body's information. I've actually used this same company for many years. Back when I was in the UK and when I was cycling and doing various health activities. But there was actually something in that data a little bit more interesting. This actually tracks stress levels, looks at my heart rate, looks at what my body's processing, and it gives me an output. And I started to look at that data just a matter of days ago to compare it to previous years, and it was fascinating. Now, I've only got January, February, March, April of this year, but I was able to go back to 2022, 2023, 2024. When I was in the middle of a career, I had a high-level sales job working for an international business, managing a £60 million a year sales target across multiple regions, European sales director. I was able to go back and look at when I was wearing, it wasn't this watch, but it was the same company, so all of the data was still there when I logged into the app. And here's what was fascinating. My average around those years, my average was around 16, 17. I'll put the slides up here so you can see the data. But the highest during those years, the peak of stress, was up at 88 and 90, pretty high level. And I looked at that data and I was like, wow, that goes to show the peaks of my day, just the daily stress of being inside a system, of being inside a corporate job that carried a lot of weight. Great job on paper, big salary, but a physical toll on your body that you might not have felt at the time. You know, you get these moments of, I feel stressed, but actually this tells you everything. And then last year we make the decision to leave, and I look at the data from last year and it wasn't plain sailing. I started the year with redundancy and then deciding to leave and selling things, and it's had its peaks and troughs during that time period. And then in September we leave, right? And we arrive in Southeast Asia, we arrive in Malaysia, and probably wasn't the start I was expecting. Fell deeply ill, ended up in hospital with surgeries required, and then ultimately sepsis. My body, the data. Now, I didn't have the watch at that point, right? But it would have been fascinating to see just how much stress I went through. It wasn't the, leave the country and sit at the swimming pool and sip a beer. It wasn't that start to breaking out of the UK that many might expect. But then in January, I start to recover and I buy this watch. And I start to find myself now feeling healthier. And I haven't crashed a diet or anything, I haven't changed. I've eaten well. Just published a video yesterday. I've been out for dinner 40 times in the last 90 days. Steak dinners, I've eaten in Burger King. 6 beef patties, and we've enjoyed an array of some great foods. But I'm in the gym every single day, and I use the data from this watch to see how my body's performing. When can I push? When do I pull back slightly? But I looked at the stress levels. That was the part that I wanted to check in on. And across each of those months, January, February, March, April, the peak stress levels that I've had so far has been 66. So if you look at the average across, my average hasn't dropped. My average still carries an element of stress. And the reasons for that is, well, I left with this view in my head of I've retired, I've got money aside that I'm trying to put to work. But in reality, I'm now running a multi-income stream business. I have this YouTube channel, a second YouTube channel, a weekly newsletter talking a bit more in depth about all of this, a Patreon, and I manage a stock portfolio. And all of that still carries some element of stress. However, the big difference here is those previous years, I was in a system that I had very little control over. The budgets were made by management, decisions came from the top, and I was just part of the system. I was just there to deliver it. Whereas now, from 80s and 90s stress levels, my ceiling has came down to 66. And the stress that I carry now, those are my decisions. I choose to have this channel. I choose to make these videos. I choose to travel. I watch my stock portfolio on a regular basis, and even when it wildly swings, negative $25,000, negative $32,000, positive, I live with that. That's part of my choice that I make to live this life. But it goes to show that from a peak in the 90s down to 66, the physical effects it can have on your body, and I feel it. And the changes that I've made, even eating out, I've still dropped weight. From last November, I was over 14.5 stone. I just weighed in this morning. We're in April now, at 11 stone, 11 pounds in weight. I feel physically great. I feel back to a really strong performance and really strong health in my late 40s. I'm on a basketball court just now. Came down here just a couple of days ago and I ran round this. I haven't ran round a basketball court since I was like, I don't know, 16 years old or something. And I ran round this in 33-degree heat, top off, sweating and just loving it, bouncing along, enjoying the spring of this court. And Yvonne looked at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just wanted to go for a run, stretch my body. And so I look at the data and it tells me, yep, you're in a good position, you've had good rest, your stress levels as an average are here, but the peak is 66. And I just think, yep, this is the data, this is the cost, this is the stuff that, you know, money, when we sold all that stuff, we made these decisions, it was about finding time to do things. I'm in that gym every single day because I've got time to do it. And I see the difference in my body. The stress, the water retention, the bloatedness, all of that I was carrying before is gone. Change in my system, and I feel it. And by being able to live like this, I've been able to give myself that time. So, do you have one of these? Do you track any of that information? Have you looked at the data on your stress levels yourself? Do you see the impact on your body? I'd be fascinated to hear from you. Not something I really looked at before. I was just like, hey, I'm doing a run, I'm doing a swim, putting that data in there or having a look at that data. But the stress levels was the part that really, I thought, that's interesting. Let's go back and look at those previous years. And it was eye-opening. All right, I'm off on this basketball court again, getting my steps in for today. It's a beautiful, warm day. It's about 30 degrees. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.